Okay, so here are my note cards. And nothing in the back. Okay. How many of you were aware that 3/4 of greenhouse gases come from fossil fuels? How do renewables help solve this issue? Today, I will be discussing the issues of using non-renewable sources of energy and why renewables present themselves as a viable option. Whether we like to admit it or not, all of us play a crucial role in shaping the planet's future, whether it's from larger actions to more simple actions like turning off the light or washing our clothes in the washing machine. As a STEM student, I have ensured that the information I have presented is as accurate and complete as I can possibly make it. To sum up my 3 points, non-renewable sources of energy are non-viable because they degrade the environment, they contribute to bad global health, and they are unfinancially stable, not financially stable. But renewable sources present themselves as a solution to all of these problems. So, first, let's analyze the issue. In recent times, we have been pumping out more greenhouse gases, which has led to increased record heat temperatures and heat index and worsening weather situations. And we've seen these all over the world and even here in the United States. To quote Sani et al., the environmental dangers of fossil fuels far outweigh the risks associated with transitioning to cleaner alternatives. So, some like to point out that the risk of transitioning to renewable sources of energy is more costly because it's a lengthy process and it can be more costly. However, in the long run, these risks don't compare to the risks of non-renewables, which in the long run pose a far greater risk because they increase to the melting glaciers, rising sea levels, worsening hurricanes and droughts, and that contribute to wildfires that we've seen here in the past year. So, as an example, we've seen Hurricane Beryl, which has contributed to millions of property damage and even some fatalities and missing people. And even in California, we've seen millions of properties burned down and millions of people displaced because of these worsening conditions of climate change caused by fossil fuels. But the effects go beyond nature. To quote Owen, the continued reliance on fossil fuels imposes significant external costs in the form of health impacts, environmental degradation, and climate-related damages. So it contributes to external costs. So what are external costs? Well, these are costs that affect ordinary people like me and you. When we experience these worsening weather events and droughts and these things that affect the community, we have to pay for that. Increased prices of food, property damage, we have to pay healthcare insurance to cover the diseases that might arise from climate change caused by these non-renewable sources. So these are the external effects that affect us that are not mentioned when people talk about the cost of non-renewables and renewables and why people often think non-renewables are more cheaper. But even more concerning are the uneven regional impacts across the United States. So to analyze this, the 10-region model from Wanacore et al., analyzing the benefits of renewables, the financial benefits, we can see that the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes experience far more advantages than other regions like the South, which are still heavily dependent on coal and oil. So some areas like the South are at greater disadvantage because of this, and they experience more problems with water and air pollution, and even uh, worsening illness because of this. So this is not a path that we can continue to walk down. Um, so here's my solution to you: coordinated effort. This is a big one if we want to combat the issues of non-renewable sources. And we've seen that it is possible in the past with the Inflation Reduction Act and bipartisan infrastructure law, which were mentioned in the Bollinger and Frick report. Um, to quote the report, they have created unprecedented opportunities for consumers and states to accelerate clean energy adoption while improving resilience to large-scale power outages. So these policies have decreased vulnerability to disasters, and it serves as an excellent example of what we should continue striving towards because these are effective methods of combating this. Um, other second important solution is to switch to more renewable sources of energy, such as wind and solar. Um, to quote Soyero and Diaz, in several communities, the environmental benefits of renewable projects were valued more than the financial ones. And this is important because it outlines the importance that is more than just about the money. It's about creating a safer community for our children and for all of us to experience a happy and healthy life in a world that is not poisoned by non-renewable sources of energy. So, what are some alternative forms of energy? Well, like I mentioned, we have wind and solar, and we can examine um, the benefits of these through these models. So, in this model that I acquired from Milstein et al., they analyzed the negative pricing frequency in the United States. So, we can see that in areas like the Texas Panhandle and even Oklahoma, that they experience more financial stability and they have to pay less for energy because they are rich in wind energy. So we can see that this is something that all of us should want to experience instead of relying more on these more costly areas that still heavily pay uh, for energy. Um, to analyze this model, this is also important because it shows this source is from Lazard, but it shows uh, that renewable energy and conventional energy are very competitive with each other. So it it combats the theory that renewable energy sources are more costly when in fact they are about the same. And if we take the external cost, conventional energy has higher external costs, like we mentioned, and renewable sources have little to none. And lastly, in this last chart or diagram, we can see that these areas have experienced more health and climate benefits because of switching to rooftop solar, utility solar, and wind sources of energy. So, in conclusion, non-renewable sources of energy are ineffective because they contribute to the degrading biodiversity and beautiful environment of our planet. They poison the water and the earth and even the air, and they contribute to illnesses worldwide. And they are unsustainable in the long run, and they're not financially stable either because they may be cheaper, but they have more external costs that we have to pay for. So imagine two futures. One where we don't combat this issue, we ignore this issue, we continue mining for coal and extracting oil and natural gas, when we poison the air and we poison the waters, and sea levels begin to rise and all these species are becoming extinct. we create a world that is unsustainable for us to live in, and in the end, we will become extinct because this is not a sustainable future for us and for our future generations. Now, imagine a future where we act, where we endorse all these policies and all these ideas, and where we take this as a serious matter instead of brushing it off as fake news. In this future, we would have access to clean air and clean water, and we wouldn't have to worry about any external costs, or is this water safe to drink, or can I breathe in this air, or do I have the necessary insurance to cover property damage that these worsening weather effects have on my area. This is a future where we don't have to worry about these. A stress-free future for us and for our children and for future generations. Would be the desired outcome. So I encourage you to invest in renewables. Contact your utility source provider and ask them about more renewable sources of energy such as rooftop solar, or even talk to your local congressman and encourage them to push for more renewable friendly policies such as the ones that we've seen them in the past, like the Inflation Reduction Act, or even simple actions as well, like conserving energy or unplugging unused applications, or even saving water or turning off the light when we're not here. Because in the end, a little can go a long way.